All right. Good morning, everyone. Afternoon for some of you. Let's start by going through all the divisions. And if any of you have new hires in your divisions, have them stand up and say hello. So let's start off with San Diego, Vista. All right. And Fresno? Sacramento?
Stand up.
Oh, sorry. New hire.
New hire, that's his name.
Your name?
Keith Johnson. I started on the 20th.
Welcome.
Great.
Thank you.
And Portland? Reno?
Where's Reno?
Reno's in the dark? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, Reno.
What I'm sorry, Reno.
Las Vegas?
He's funny.
He is, isn't he?
Good morning.
All those people in Las Vegas?
Salt Lake? Oh, there's Salt Lake. All right, good morning. And Houston? Oh, look at the nice wall behind Houston.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
I'm Matt Terrian. Started on the 23rd.
Good, good. Glad you're aboard.
And North Carolina.
Thank you.
How are you? David Rodriguez.
Oh, glad you're aboard, David.
Welcome, David.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And then everyone here in LA that you all can't see. So, how many of you all are normally on the Insider? Does everyone here normally go to the Insider and visit it? Did everyone see the push-ups most recently by Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
So, how did that come about?
I was just finding out myself. What happened, I was in the sales managers meeting here in Los Angeles, and they were saying, you really do 67 push-ups every day? I said, yeah, sure. So come on. So I said, you don't think so, huh? And they said, yeah. I said, well, then I'll show you. They said, oh, no. And I just said, I'm starting. So I started, and I was pushing up. And of course, we had an emergency at the time, and one of the employees was hurt, and so the fire department had come in. And if you'll see the picture, while I'm doing the push-ups, the fire guys are coming down. I said, geez, they're not for me, but anyway. I did the push-ups, and they said, okay, quit. So I didn't get to do my whole 67. I think I did 20 or 25, that's all.
So you did push-ups in the Army. Have you been doing them since then, or when?
Ever since, yeah.
Ever since the Army? Wow.
That's only a year or two ago. I was discharged in 1946, so that's been a long time.
Yeah.
So
More than 10 years, you know.
So I think we get the guys in the room that asked you to do that and then tape them doing theirs.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
We'll get them on camera. So we have some questions that came in since our last time, and Callie in Reno is asking about in regard to the advances in technology since the beginning of Earnest. Well, they've been radical, the advances in technology. Do you feel that it's easier or harder to do business now compared to then?
Well, I think in some ways it's easier, but it's so much more complex. You have to be really prepared to do business well today. Just think of the difficulties of communication and the rapidity with which knowledge is conveyed between the places and that, and how long it takes you to order something, get it down, and out the door. It's much more difficult, no question about it today, because it's much more complex. Also, the amount of different products that's being sold and the complexity of each one of them, it just amazes me because I don't know how we even keep up with it. All of you people just do a heck of a job because there's so much difference. You know, from month to month, something new comes up. And then they start asking you about, oh, I had this order 3 years ago and I want to do it. Well, some of that stuff goes out of style too, and you can't even get it. So I would say it was a simpler time. Very simple in those days.
People are so much more informed now too.
Well,
Information.
they're better trained too. They're better trained. You've got better educated people too working. I mean, if you think in terms of they were educated, but they just had much simpler tasks. It was the same thing over and over again. I don't think any one of our jobs is the same every day.
She also asks, Callie in Reno, she also asks, do you consider social media a blessing or a curse?
Well, that's a difficult job. When they're against me, it's a curse. But, you know, it's all the progress that we're making and the immediacy of what we can do today. Social media helps you. And then people are more honest and more frank, and they're able to express themselves better. And I think only time will tell us whether it's better or not, really. Personally, I think it's just the progress that we all humans make. We all progress. We can't live in the past. And if you don't keep up, you're gone. So I'm delighted that you people are keeping up. I wish I could.
So Jimmy here in LA is asking, do you hold any other licenses other than your law license?
Well, I did. You know, I had a public accounting license. I had a real estate broker's license. I had a license, or was that a
I didn't know you had a broker's license. Did you sell as a?
No, I was a licensed real estate broker because in the old days when you put a deal together, if you didn't have a brokerage license, you couldn't get paid for it. So I always like to get paid. So yeah, and I had to pass all the tests and that, and I maintained them for a number of years. What else did I have? I think that was it. I had a driver's license. I had.
Which one was the most useful or helpful to you in your career?
The driver's license. When you had to get out of a place, you got to. But it was interesting. The first driver's license I had, I guess, was in the Army. I still have it, my Army driver's license.
The Jeeps, right? You
Yeah,
know,
because we,
Jeeps.
being on the intelligence reconnaissance platoon, we were all trained specially to drive Jeeps, and that, so we did that.
We had a great conversation. So I'm watching television on the weekend one day, and there's a documentary on Los Angeles and the red trains. So they were cable cars or electric cars. They were red. So I'm watching this, and it's all black and white, and they're showing it. I come into work on Monday, and I ask Mr. Wilson about the red trains. Do you remember the red trains? And you said your brother used those as a salesman. That's as far as he could sell, was as far as a train would go.
Well, no, what would happen is we lived at the beach in Santa Monica, and he would get the red car in Santa Monica and either go by way of Beverly Hills or go by way of Venice. There was two different ways. It'd take you downtown, and they were larger than street cars and faster. They were on railroad tracks, regular railroad tracks. There's still a lot of the right-of-ways today around here. So we had an incredible right-of-way. So he was able, because he didn't have a car at that time, to take the train down to where he was working at Wilson Paper. They were cousins of ours. That was 1938, 39. And he'd get off right practically where at the place down on, I think it was on Broadway or something down there. And he could get off, get and start selling, because he did sell in that area.
Where the train.
And then he'd take the train home at night. So it was terrific. Take about an hour to do it, but it was really, the system was fabulous. Had they maintained the tracks and that, we would have had a tremendous system here. But that's a whole story of how the automobile industry helped destroy that. There was a long lawsuit, and it was actually won after many years, and they gave nominal damages for it, but it was ridiculous. In the meantime, they destroyed this whole system of tracks, because we actually had a subway system in part of the tracks in downtown here. The tunnels are still here.
Other than Ernie, do you have any other siblings?
No, it's just my brother and I.
Just your brother and I. What was it like being a business partner with him? Any good fights?
We never had a fight, really, because he was my big brother, and he was my mentor, and we'd grown up together in tough times, and we actually, our first day of partnership was having paper routes in Salt Lake City, where he had a paper route, and he had to be 12 years old before I could get mine. So I worked for him then. That's the first time I started working for him.
Wow.
That would have been a long time ago.
Did you go out and deliver papers?
Oh, yeah, well, I delivered too. I was his assistant. And then I got a route next to his when I turned 12. So we both were working together.
That was the first partnership.
Yeah.
That's really neat. So Jimmy's also asking, where else have you lived? There's Salt Lake and LA. We spoke about London a little bit.
Well, actually, I lived in Salt Lake, and then we would come out here in the winters a few times when we still had a little bit of money after the Depression, but we didn't have much. This would have probably been in about 1932 or 33, and I actually came to Los Angeles and went to school here, and would go to this in the winter. It was very interesting because they always talk about the great LA school system. I would come out here in the second grade or first grade, and they would immediately promote me to a semester or a year. And I did this 2 different times because they were so far behind Salt Lake. And then I'd be here for 4 months, then I'd go back to Salt Lake. They would put me back in my old class, and I'd be behind. So I was shocked too, because when I was in the second grade here, they had beds and they had naps.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't believe people went to school for a nap. I thought you went to school to study, but that was LA. So I was, I always felt, gee, that's not great school system. I like it because I don't have to do any work. But that's it. Anyway, it was strange. But so I lived in Salt Lake till I was 1938, and I was 14 when I left. And my mother sold our house so that we'd been living in it, so that we had to get out. My brother couldn't get a job in Salt Lake, so he just graduated high school. So my brother was sent to Canada with my father's family, and I was sent to my aunt in Chicago. So I lived in Chicago.
And this is when you were
when I was in my sophomore year. I guess I was 14. I was a year ahead of myself. So I was, and I went to a high school in Chicago for that one semester. It was von Steuben, if anybody's from the area. I spent the semester not studying. So it was a good thing that we moved to California so that I could continue my work. Because that way I did want to graduate high school. But I did love the school. But Chicago was one cold city. I got there in the summer, And it was no air conditioning in those days. No air conditioning in Chicago.
This is 1938.
1938. So on a hot, humid night, it got so hot sometimes we'd go in the park and sleep. It was so bad. And then what you would do on Saturdays, if you had a dime, you would go to a movie because they would have 3 features. And so you could stay there for about 3 or 4 hours. And so that was your big deal. You would cool off for the week in the theater. But you didn't always have a dime, so it was always tough.
What did a baseball game cost to go watch the Cubs?
Oh, I think it was 25 cents or 50 cents, and nobody could afford that. So we couldn't afford it, but I guess I know some of the guys went.
Watch the game. Talk about the rope. Jimmy's from Chicago.
Oh,
Do you
he
know about the
knows.
ropes?
Yeah. On Michigan Boulevard in the wintertime, they have ropes, right?
Yes, on the edge of the, yes.
Yeah, you're so cold. If you don't know, hang onto that rope, it'll blow you off. It's so bad. And the winds that come off that lake are brilliant. They go through you and then they laugh and come right back through you. Is that true?
Yeah,
It's so
true.
cold. So I was happy to get out of there in November of '38.
So people are walking down the sidewalk holding.
Some of them, they would hold on to that rope, or you were crazy if you didn't.
Yep.
Unless you wanted to get blown out of the street. So that was a great place to. Shall I continue?
What about the hot dogs?
What do you mean hot dogs? They had great hot dogs there.
There was a street you talked about where you would go.
Well, you mean Lawrence Avenue?
Yeah,
I don't
that was
understand.
it.
Well, you could get great hot dogs and delicatessen. It was wonderful there. Great stuff on that. Near Pulaski, I don't know if you know where that is.
Yep.
Lawrence Avenue and Pulaski there, near there. But that's, a world apart. It's all different today. And it's a beautiful city, Chicago, actually, beautiful. But so it was great. It was great now. I was 14 to learn. And then moved to here and grew up in Santa Monica. Went to Santa Monica High School, graduated. Went to UCLA for my first year, and then got into service, And so I was sent to overseas. We fought in the war was over, and I got a very fortunate deal because I'd done a lot of acting in high school, and so I was sent to Trinity College of Music in London for the Michaelmas term of 45, I guess it would have been, 45, and studied acting, and I appeared in a play there in London. So that was fun living in London.
Do you go to plays now?
Oh yeah, I love plays. I really love the theater, and I love.
Are you critical of the actors because you're training?
I wasn't that good. No, it's there's very long stories about why you don't go into acting. One, you have to be completely dedicated. If you're not dedicated, forget it. And your family, nothing means anything. You've really got to be dedicated. And then you got to be good, but you got to realize, like in Hollywood, for every great part, there's 10 capable actors. So it's very tough to be. It's a tough business. It's who you know, how you know, and if you're good, and then you're lucky that the damn script is good. See, so anyway, that was very interesting. So I lived in London and then I was back to my service and came back here, finished school.
So LA is getting a facelift. There may be a picture on the insider, but there's new paint going up. There's colors. The whole outside of the building looks great.
Yeah.
What is that like for you to pull up and see the building all beautiful and think back to the garage?
Well, I'm just so proud of everybody here, all of you people. Thank you very much, because we're all making this a wonderful company. We're all trying to make it look good, and our headquarters has got to look good. It's great. I understand our new place in Portland is going to be fabulous, right? Good. So we're very pleased that we're proud of us, and let's keep it that way. So I think it's just very, it's great, isn't it?
And Portland,
Yes.
and Portland's having a success right now. They recently got a larger truck as well because of the success they're experiencing. So
You
hopefully
mean they've sold something?
hopefully they'll put a picture up of the truck and themselves in front of the new one
Great.
if they'll do that. Congratulations to Portland. All right. Well, please send in your questions. It's always good to hear from you guys. If you have anything, we'll be here again the last Tuesday of next month. All right.
Good. So, and if you believe all that I've told you,
Have a good
thank
day,
you,
everyone.
Thanks a million for spending this miserable time with me.
Never miserable.